My great honor to begin the next panel, the role and position of Mobeds in a fast-changing world, moderated by Ervad Arda-e-viraf Minocherhomjee. Dr. Arda-e-viraf Minocherhomjee is a founding and managing partner of Chicago Growth Partners, a private equity firm managing $1.2 billion in assets. Prior to founding CGP, he was a managing director of William Blair Capital Partners and a head of William Blair's healthcare research, and was involved in several IPO and secondary offerings. He was a Wall Street Journal all-star analyst in both the medical device and the pharmaceutical sectors. Arda received an MSc in pharmacology from the University of British Columbia and was a postdoctoral fellow in pharmacology at University of Washington Medical School. He was a recipient of several scholarships, including Tata, Kanagat Laboratories, and Canadian Heart Foundation. Arda-e-viraf was ordained Navar and Maratab in Navsari. He is actively involved in the North American Zoroastrian community and provides volunteer priestly services to Zoroastrians in the US and Western Canada. He is presently serving as the president of the North American Mobeds Council. Can we please offer him a warm welcome to join us on stage? If you would like to join me on stage and begin the panel. Thank you. Okay, yeah, can we get the panel members, please? Invite you all to the stage.
Thank you so much for the great introduction. That wasn't necessary. You guys want to be seated before we start? Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed my pleasure and privilege to be among so many young and smart Zartushtis from all over the world. I'm very thankful to Faizana and in particular Arzan and Homi for giving us the opportunity to participate in this Youth Congress. So as you can see, the main title today is what is the role of Mobeds in this rapidly changing world? Now, as you can imagine, some roles don't change much. So what is the primary role that we do? Obviously, it's performing ceremonies. And the ceremonies include jashans, gambars, we perform navjots, weddings, and so on and so forth. And they will stay similar or constant as we've done them in India. Maybe we can modify some prayers to make it shorter or whatever, okay? But basically, the prayers won't change, the ceremonies won't change. But what in fact is changing, that the young people here are in a different cultural environment, and they want to understand more about our ceremonies, what we are praying, why we are praying, and in fact how they can use religion in their daily lives. So what we thought of doing today is to talk about some of the basic beliefs and values of Zaratushtis that we derive from our prayer books, from the Gathas and other books. And we are going to talk about that today, and then our distinguished young panel will give their own perspectives. And we want active participation from you guys. So before I start, I'd like to introduce Ervad Soli Dastur and Ervad Tehemton Mirza. They are our distinguished scholars from North American Mobeds Council. So they may have a lot of answers that you may be looking for. So I highly encourage you to talk to them and find the answers. More importantly, we have our young Mobeds. They are a very smart group of people who are highly accomplished, not only in the ceremonies, but also in their own professional lives. And what I'd like to start is for each of them to introduce themselves. So at the very end, we have our soprano Meher Pavri. I'm sure most of you know her. As you may note, she's very good at what she does. So we have asked her to sing 4 paragraphs from her first Gatha that are also going to be part of our slide presentation. So Meher, would you start first, please?
Thank you, Arda uncle. Before I start the prayer, I would just ask if we could all stay off of our phones and use this time to reflect inwards, maybe close your eyes, and take this moment for yourself.
Mayor, if I could, so what Soli and Tehemton would like for you is to pray during the slides. So when we'll be showing the slides, then you can pray and they can even read the meaning in English, if you don't mind.
Perfect.
So Adil, introduce yourself and then keep moving.
Hi, I'm Adil. I'm the vice chair of this event. Professionally, I am a product manager and I have an MS in information systems as well as an MBA. So, thanks.
I was going to say something. He didn't want to disclose that he's my son too, okay?
Good morning. I'm Sheherazad Pavri. I've come from Mumbai. Really happy to have you guys here. I am an ordained priest. I come from Mumbai. I studied at the Dadar Institute, which is the only existing institution which has trained priests, and we do have some alumni from the other institutions as well. I am well versed in performing the higher liturgical ceremonies like the Yasna, the Vandida, the Nirangdin. Till date, I've performed 13 Nirangdins, which is like the highest ritual. Professionally, I run my business building distribution networks over an e-commerce platform. I am also involved in a community initiative back home. It's called Empowering Mobeds. We are basically involved in holding workshops, seminars, and we want to build a connect between the laity and the priestly class. We have connected till date, like the initiative is close to a year old, and we've managed to connect with the community of all ages, like starting from like holding heritage walks for kids, all the way to having an interaction with senior citizens. And we basically would like to know, like even during the interactive session, I'd personally like to know from you guys what you feel about priests in general, because let's be honest, somewhere going back to the past, we as priests hadn't lived up to the expectations or haven't served your needs, your religious needs, which is why where we are today. Don't want to crib about it, but help us make this situation better. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Karl Desai. I'm from Sydney, Australia, born and raised in Sydney. So I have very, I think, modern views on the religion. I became a priest when I was 11 years old. I perform a host of weddings, novjats and jashans in Sydney. I'm also actively involved in the youth community there. I currently work in London. I work in sustainability around buildings. And similar to Sherry, looking forward to hearing from you all how we can perform our role moving forward. It's an interesting time for our community, and we're trying to understand how we can be leaders in order to engage you all in our religion. Thanks.
Hello. Good morning. I'm Zerkxis Bhandara. Most of you guys know me. I am a local priest, born and raised in Southern California. I am Nawar Martab. I got my Nawar at age 11, Martab at age 12 in Mumbai. Other than being a part-time priest, I'm a student. I recently graduated with a bachelor's degree in the study of religion. And as of last week, I got into a graduate program in the study of anthropology.
Hey.
Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I believe that learning goes two ways. So if we can learn what your questions and what your interests are, we can better educate you in matters of the religion and matters of our community. Thank you.
And before you start, Zerkxis happens to be Zari's son.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Khushru Madon. I'm originally from Mumbai, but now living in London for the last 9 years. I became a priest at the age of 12 as well in Mumbai at the Jijibedarabe Agyari, probably famous for the Lagans and Navjots and the weddings that you've attended. And I am a software engineer by profession. I'm currently doing a part-time master's at the University of Oxford and also teach software engineering as a part-time hobby in universities across the UK. So I am honored to be a part of this panel across my distinguished colleagues and seniors as well, and looking forward in the same opinions and views that my colleagues have expressed, and would love to know a lot more about how we could move on and proceed further. Thank you.
I am Tehemton Mirza. I became Navar at Udvada before most of you were born. I am a CPA and have my own practice. During spare time, I like to run half marathons. And I'm also a recreational pilot, so if there are any pilots in the audience, we will swap some stories. Thank you.
And now the youngest member of our group.
I became Navar before you. And also in Iransha, Navar Martaben Samil. Well, I'm Soli Dastur. I am from Florida, Bradenton, Florida. About 3 days ago, my wife Joanne and I celebrated 53 years. And most of you were not born. Otherwise, I'm nobody. I'm only in his service 24/7. Thank you.
So with that, Soli bhai, could you please come over and go through the slides? So Soli, Tehemton, and I are going to go through the presentation very quickly, and then it will be open for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Arda, and all the people here. Oh, okay. I think I can push a button. My discussion is going to be very simple. Who is our prophet? Anybody knows? Who is our prophet? I want to know. Oh boy, everybody's so, you want to come and talk about it? Okay. How do we know who actually wrote that Zarathustra is our prophet? Can anybody tell me? Oh my God. See, that's what I said. Whenever I mention that, I get a silence from all of you. Maybe somebody then say something which is wrong, and then somebody gives a story which is wrong. So, who actually said and wrote that Zarathustra was our prophet? Zarathustra himself. Do you know that? And what did Zarathustra wrote? Anybody knows? Hormozest, Adivasias? What did he write? You're not allowed, you're too good. I want to know. Gatha. And what does Gatha mean? Singing songs. And that's why we got the best singer here, Mayor Pavri, to do the singing. Okay, so where did he write this one? Zarathustra wrote 5 gathas, 17 songs, and in the second gatha, first gatha, he says the soul of Mother Earth complained to Dada Ormas in 29.1 against all the evil happening. And she said in 29.1, unto you, O Creator, the soul of Mother Earth complained thus. For what reason did you create me? Anger, pillage, outrage, blunder, aggression and violence are everywhere. Sounds like she's talking about today. But there is no protector for me except thee, therefore reveal to me a Savior who could show me the way out of this difficulty. And may I please sing the first one? You don't have to come here, you can sing from there.
Geush urva gerezda kahmaima twarozdum kemat ashat ama eshmo hazascharemo ahushaya derischa tevischa Noit moi vasta shmatanyo Ata moi sansta vahu vastriya.
Thank you, Mayor. I have been in this country since 1960. I have never heard a Gatha paragraph recited in a presentation. So thank you very much. So Mazda asked the two Ameshasman, Wohuman and Ardibesh, hey, do you know anybody who we can make a prophet and send it? And they say, you are the one, we don't know anybody. So what happens? Then our Mirza says, the only one who has listened to our command is well known to me. He is the holy Zarathustra Spitama. He is the only person who is eager to proclaim through his songs of praise the path of truthfulness. Therefore, sweetness of speech shall be granted to him. Sweetness of speech. So now, Mayor, the second one. I am Moi.
I am Moi ida vistoyene evo sans now gushusta Zarathustro spitamo Vone Mazda Vashti Ashaicha Chere Keretra Sravaenge Yatoi Hudemem Dyaiva Kedraya.
Thank you. And in his Zarathustra on his side, in his very first words of his Honoviti Gatha 28.1, Zarathustra with uplifted hand and deep humility. Our Vakshuran is humble. And so we talk about humility. And he says, with uplifted hand and deep humility, I beseech, O Mazda, first and foremost, this the abiding joy of spenta menu, your holy mind. Grant that I perform all actions in harmony with righteousness and acquire the wisdom of good mind. So that, this is very important, so that I may bring happiness to the soul of the universe. Remember, all these things started with a complaint of the universe soul. And he mentions it in the first Gatha, first paragraph, that I'll take the happiness to the soul of the universe. So the last one, May.
Ahyayasa nemanga ustanazastor hafedrayao Minya ushmazdao porvim spentayasha Vispeng Shotnau, Vengeush Kratum Manangoya, Shnevisha Geuscha Urvanem.
Thank you very much. So, we are talking about what Zarathustra's main goal is to remove all dushmata, rizukta, dushvarsta, the bad thoughts, bad words and bad deeds, and bring in humata, ukta, rashta. But also taking care of Avamizda's creations, fire, water, air, vegetation, animals, and human being. Our well-publicized current day initiatives like Green Movement and Earth Day. Green Movement and Earth Day. Can you believe Zarathustra expounded those 3,500 plus years? Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when we go to our place of worship, we go to Darbemer, to Agyari, to Adeshkade. What do we have there? Fire. 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 So it is an eternal symbol of our faith. We pray in front of fire. The question arises, does it make us to be fire worshippers? Are we? Hello? Are we on talking terms? You know, only my wife can keep quiet when she's mad at me. So if you like something that I say, please clap or say something or make a sound or do something. So, yes, does that make us fire worshippers? No. Whoops, if I can make this work. Okay. So how do we know that we are not fire worshippers? It says so in Yasna. Yasna Haptangaiti. And I will invite Mayor again to lend her beautiful voice to this verse. Go ahead, Mayor.
Ushta ahmai yamai ushta kahmai chit vasesh yasmazau dayat ahuro uttayuiti tevishim gatoi vasemi Hashem derediai tatmoi Da'o armaiti, ra'o ashish vangeush, gaem manengo.
Okay, thank you. I think it was a little premature of me to ask Mayor to do that, but we'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so Yasna Haptangaiti says that through the agency of this fire, O most beneficial spirit of our Mazda, we first approach thee and thee only thee, nobody else. So what does the fire do? It takes away all impurities. So it's a purifier. Now if you see this slide, can somebody recognize this place, particularly people from Iran? Yes? So this is the Iran Bikambera Adaran. Right at the top of it, there is some inscription, and it is right here on the side. It starts with Ahura. And it says that we do not worship fire. Now, think about it. Why would they put an inscription like this right at the top of Darbemer in Iran? Any thoughts?
So the Muslims won't say you are fire worshipper.
That's right. So that the others know that we are not fire worshippers, we worship our Mazda through fire. And so does Firdausi say, He said, Magui ke atas parastan budam, parastan epak yazdan budam. Who was Firdausi? Poet. What did he write? Shahnameh, the book of kings. And he wrote about our kings, our ancestors. He wrote about Rustam and Sorab and Afrasiab and Temina and Rodabe. Those were our ancestors. Feel free to look him up on the internet. You will find those stories in Shahnameh, and that will make you proud to be Zartustis. They were all Zoroastrians. By the way, Firdausi was a Muslim. And this, of course, everyone knows this picture. Right at the top, it says, Atro Avramazda Putra, dedicated to Avramazda. And then happiness. Happiness, ladies and gentlemen, is a choice. You choose to be happy. Mahatma Gandhi said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, that's Humata Hukta Huvarsta. Right? And you have it right there, written in Avesta. Humata Hukta Huvarsta. It also goes on in Gathas. Zarathustra says, happiness to those who give happiness to others. You must have heard it quite a few times. And a common greeting among Zarathustris, Ushtate, may happiness be with you. So, do we have a formula for happiness in Zoroastrianism? Yes. And it's right there in our Ashembo prayer. So now, ladies and gentlemen, those you have cell phones, I encourage you to bring them out. Get your cell phones out, your mobile devices, and look at avasta.org. If you have not bookmarked it already, I would encourage you to do that. Avasta.org. It gives you a ton of information on Zoroastrianism. Some things that I would like to draw your attention to. It gives you Nowruz prayer book. It gives you some Nowruz prayers in Gujarati, Farsi, and English, of course. It gives you some Avesta scriptures. It gives you Khorde Avesta. And more importantly, it also gives you some articles, information that you and I can read and understand. And on the right-hand corner, you will notice that there are some articles highlighted. First one is by our distinguished scholar, Soli Dastur. It also has Dasturji Dhala's articles. It also has Jivanji Jamsetji Modi's books, etc. A lot of information. So feel free to mark this down as your favorite or bookmark it, and you can look it up whenever you like. The other website that I would like you to look at is avasta.org. This has a lot of information. Sorry, we are still on avasta.org. So if you would like to click on this WZSE link, and it will take you to Soli's weekly renderings. If you click on number 26, ta-da, it brings you to his very enlightening meaning of Ashembo and Yathavaryu as well. So I will let you read it at your leisure, but it gives you a lot more information than what we can find elsewhere. The other website that I would encourage you to look at is www.zoroaster.com. There you click on Avesta and click on Ashembo, and you will find word by word meaning of Ashembo. Each word is explained to you. What does it mean? So if you are not sure what you are praying, well, there's a ton of information there. So that brings us to Ashembo. This is our formula for happiness. On this side, you will notice that it's written in Avesta, the original language. So, Asha denotes righteousness, justice, divine law, and truth. So Zoroastrianism is a religion of happiness. We do not have anything taught to us to mourn about anything. No fasting, not even for a day, forget about a month. No crying. No torturing ourselves. Nothing. Just be happy and spread happiness. United Nations World Happiness Report. You will be interested to know that they did a report. Number 1, Finland. Number 7, Canada. Whoa! Whoa! United States, UK, yeah, USA. And look up the country of your interest on that website. Pew Research says that actively religious people are more likely than less religious people to describe themselves as very happy. I'm not saying this. Pew Research says so. So be religious. Doesn't mean that you have to be extremely orthodox or anything, but be religious. And then you'll be happy. The study done by the Journal of Gerontology concluded that older people live longer if they are religious. You see the word here, survival advantage. That's a fancy word for live longer. Good mind? Yes, it's necessary to be happy. Happiness is a state of mind. So that's where Ahura Mazda says that you have to hear the best truth with your ears and decide with your own mind. And you are on your own. You have to think and make a decision on your own, and you will be judged based on your decision. So, ladies and gentlemen, Vahumana, good mind, has 2 sources. It's the knowledge and trustworthiness of our religion and the knowledge that we acquire as we go along. So you have to use the scriptures to interpret the situation that we find ourselves in. The second Amishaspan, right after Ahura Mazda, is Baman, good mind. So Ahura Mazda has given us free will. So let's take responsibility and use our mind and transform your lives from what you are living now to the life that you want to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Tehemton. As you can see, he's a great speaker, and so is Soli, so that's why I always get them. So now the bar is really high, so get your expectations lower. But in any case, I've been asked to talk about 3 topics. One thing I really like, as you can imagine in my business, is money, wealth. So what does our religion say about wealth? Is it good, bad, evil to pursue wealth? So we want to find the answers, and it's not his answer, but it's what the Gathas say, and what we've been taught in our other religious texts. Then what is the concept of charity? All of us know about that, and we'll talk about it very briefly. And the most important concept that Soli Bhai talked about at the very beginning about truth. So I will briefly touch on each of these 3 topics, okay? So first is acquiring wealth. Now these words are very important, so pay attention to each of the words, okay? Always accumulate wealth with honesty and do not rob others of their property or do not usurp other people's wealth. And this comes when we are saying the Pasan Ashirvad ceremony. So look at the word accumulate. It doesn't even talk about acquiring, accumulate. So we can not only work hard and gain wealth, but we can also invest. So what is the point for the young children? You should start a 401k plan. Start accumulating wealth. So there is a message there. And if you work hard and you can accumulate wealth and do it honestly, there is nothing wrong. And that should be the goal of all young Zartustis. Now it goes further, okay? So acquiring wealth is one thing, but what do we acquire this wealth for? So we all want to pursue this pot of gold. So is that the ultimate goal in life, so to become very rich and wealthy? That is not the case in Zoroastrian culture. So what it says is, may the evil person who acquires wealth for his worldly pleasures and bad reputation, for his soul never attain anything in life. So acquiring wealth for worldly pleasures is not the ultimate goal. So it's not about how many cars you can buy, how many houses you can buy, or what clothes you can wear. That is not the purpose of Zoroastrian religion. It's how we conduct our lives and what we do with our wealth. That's the most important. And in the second Gatha that she sang, Ushtavaiti Gatha, the first paragraph, actually that paragraph is one of my most favorite paragraphs because it touches on three things. First, Ushtamai Yammai Ushtakamai Chit, which means happiness to those who bring happiness to others. The second sentence goes about truth, and I'll talk about it briefly. And the last sentence talks about God, Rayo Ashish Vangeush Gahem Manango. That means God grant me wealth, good blessings, and a life of good mind. Now, these three words, I would like for you to think about them very carefully. So what do most of us spend our time pursuing? Obviously, a good mind, we want to get a good education, and then wealth. And there is nothing wrong with that. But what is missing in many people's lives is good blessings. God's blessing or God's blessings. And that, as Tehemton said, that comes from us leading a righteous life and praying. So we need to do that if we want to be successful in life. Because life is like a three-legged stool. One can be your wealth, second can be a good mind. But if you don't have God's blessings, you will not be as successful or prosperous in your life. That is what we've been taught. I'm a little slow here. Next, charity. So I'm sure those who grew up in India, we heard Parsi, the other name is charity. So where does that come from? It comes from the most important prayer that we say. Yathaho prayer, where we say, Shatrimcha, Ahurai, Ayim, Dregubyo, Daradvastarem. There are many interpretations of this, but the most simple one is God helps those who help their poor brethren. So the most important function of money is not to accumulate wealth, but is to help our poor brethren. Because if we do not do that, then we are really not practicing Zoroastrian religion. So it doesn't matter how many times we say, I have this much wealth, and my 401k plan is this. God doesn't care about that. When we pass away, the only thing God cares about is our net good deeds. That is really your spiritual worth. And that is what we should spend as much time focusing on as we spend time focusing on our 401k plan. And the last is truth. As Soli mentioned in his very first paragraph, why was Zarathustra chosen? Because he is the only person who is eager to proclaim through his songs and praise the path of truthfulness. As you can tell, that this was the chief attribute that Zarathustra saw that Ahura Mazda saw in Zarathustra and chose him. So in our culture, in our religion, truth is not absence of falsehood. Truth is absolute truth, and it's not easy to stick with truth. So therefore, you will see in the Ushtavaiti Gatha that she also sang, it says, I verily ask of thee, Ahura Mazda, the health and vigor in order to hold steadfast to truth. Because it's so difficult sometimes to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because you're worried you might upset other people. But at the end of the day, that is what our religion demands us to do, say the whole truth. And you ask God for his help so that you can always say the truth. And the famous Greek historian Herodotus, and in fact, he said something very interesting. Sorry, I'll go back one. He said that the Persian sons are carefully instructed from the 5th to the 20th year to do 3 things alone. Amazing. Look at the 3rd thing. To write, to draw the bow, and to speak the truth. And it doesn't sink. So, because again, they all go back to why Zarathustra was chosen. The chief attribute of a human being, a Parsi, Zartushti, is to always speak the truth. So, summary very quickly. Always be truthful, humble, charitable, righteous. So to me, righteousness is an all-encompassing term. So good thoughts, good words, good deeds. But how do you follow that? And we have many of the answers, okay? A good deed could be to become charitable, to bring happiness to others. So we have the formulas about how we actually implement these things. So what attributes you want to develop? We should always use our good mind, innate wisdom, as Tehemton said. So how do you develop your innate wisdom? Different people have different positions on that. But my kaka, Dastur Minocherhomjee, used to always tell me that you can fine-tune your innate wisdom through prayers. So I sincerely request everyone who is here to, if you're not praying, just start praying two yathas and one Hashem. And say the meaning in English, and I guarantee you it will change your life for the better. That's my humble request to you. Thank you again, and I'll open. And this session is open for discussion. I'd like active participation from both the young Mobeds. They are the brains here, not us, and also the audience. Please. Who wants to start?
Hi, sorry. So thank you very much for that. I had a question. So I have been very excited to come to this Congress, especially because we have female representation from Mashhad as a female Mobediar. And I'm wondering why she is not on this panel, if someone can speak to that. Thank you.
So the way the Mobed panel has worked is that there's a difference between a Mobed and a Mobediar. So a Mobed is responsible for liturgical ceremonies, traditionally. A Mobediar is responsible in the situation when something cannot be performed or there's no Mobed around to provide that service. The Mobediar can help with that. In the situation, for example, when someone passes away and you need to perform ceremonies very urgently, a Mobediar has a very critical role in our community. So there's a difference between a Mobed and a Mobediar, I guess, to answer your question.
I think if I could just follow up, so from our standpoint, the North American Mobed Council speakers have been invited by Fezana. I didn't choose the panel. And I assume that because this title says the role and position of Mobeds in the fast-changing world, I think it may be useful. Next year we could have the role and position of Mobediars in this world. So nothing is mutually exclusive. We are very inclusive, as you can tell. We have Mayor, our singer. So we will work with anyone and everyone who can help us further our cause.
Thank you all for your service to our community and for this presentation. My name is Armaidi. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm asking a question pertaining to the inconsistency that I'm seeing with regard to the observance of Baman Maino, during which we are to abstain from eating the flesh of animals, yet flesh of animals is being served here at the Congress during Baman Maino. And there was a reference to taking care of our earth and the green movement, which is supposed to be in alignment with taking care of the earth by not eating the creatures of this earth. So if someone could address that, please.
So I'm going to answer this as a Congress organizer, and also as a Mobed. So as a Congress organizer, logistically, the food budget, and we didn't want to force some decisions on people, and this is the best decision we could make at that given point in time. But to your point, religiously, I think as someone who is practicing Balamano, I have a lot of respect for you and using your good mind, Vahumana, to make that decision consciously and to advocate for that cause. I want to say I respect that. So does that answer your question?
Well, there are plenty of delicious plant-based alternatives like Beyond Meat sausages, so it really baffles me that one Congress that we have, where we have an opportunity to show the youth how delicious and healthy plant-based foods can be, is basically squandered, and it's disappointing.
So I guess as a Congress organizer, you should bring it up with the Congress committee. So I think that's a Congress situation, not a Mobed question, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
We have Tehemton, who is a vegetarian priest, so let him talk.
Oh. Well, the question is very appropriate. Thank you very much for asking. As a vegetarian myself, I can understand your position. The important part that we have to look at is the change should come from within. You should feel that you have to be a vegetarian. That's what happened to me 20 years ago, that I thought, okay, it was wrong to do this. But my wife, my kids, they love their meat.
We're not forcing anyone to
correct.
vegan by having vegan options. They can still go and eat other stuff if they want.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're right. And I think on a suggestion list, that perhaps would be a perfect suggestion to make. Thank you so much for bringing it up.
I think we'll, as probably, I think that the next Congress is coming to London, so we will probably make sure that we can have a lot more options available for vegans as well.
Hello, my name is Mafrin Santok. So I'm wondering, I know a lot of Mobeds have very different beliefs from maybe members of their community. So this question is for nobody in particular, but has anyone ever gotten a request from someone in their community that was either too conservative or too liberal for their liking, and how they dealt with it, and how their response was received by whoever made the request and the rest of their community?
Sorry, could you go slow on the latter part and repeat that?
So my question is, has anyone gotten a request from a member of their community that they were uncomfortable with? Either it was just too conservative or it was just too liberal, and how did they respond to that? How did their community accept their response?
Jimmy, you want to go for the liberal one first? Because I believe I'm representing the Orthodox right now.
I think we need to stop that. No, I mean, first of all, my use of the word liberal is I think, misplaced as well, but I'm not a liberal priest as much as I am, my answer would be that growing up in India, I had the opportunity to learn from different people, from what you would popularly call people as liberals, reformists, orthodox, traditionalists, extremists. Everyone taught me as I was growing up, and then I asked questions to everyone, and using a little bit of side reading, a little bit of passionate hobby kind of bit of research, I then kind of followed the Gathas in that I chose, based on all the facts, based on seeking the truth and on what wisdom I could achieve over time, I took my own decisions, and then whenever someone asked me to do something, I always saw to it that I have an explanation for my actions. And my actions have evolved over time, so I don't read something and that is the final and absolute truth. So my truth at age 12 is different from my truth at age 28. And over time I have evolved in my actions. And at any given point in time, I think that's what Zarathustra asks, that if your answer, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, if you can choose your actions using your own good mind and be explainable, then I think most of the times people have always understood the reasoning behind why I have done what I've done.
So I'd like to add my perspective to that, and understanding the background of where I come from back in India. They're really stringent about marrying within the fold, and after like attending a few congresses and seeing the perspective of you guys as well, I completely understand that as youngsters, you'll actually come and approach me like, oh, you got like a really great pool to choose from back home in India. We don't have the luxury out here, so how do you expect us to marry within the fold? Well, I personally have never performed an interfaith marriage and choose not to do so, simply because I'd like to stand by my principle. But if you'd ask me a particular instant where you're like pointed out like, oh, why did you choose that stand? Why did you choose that stand? For example, the Jashan we performed, we included a female Mobediar over there. That was by choice. Whoever chose not to, they could walk out. So that could be pointed out as, oh, why did you choose that stand? Why did you choose to sit with the Mobediar? At least back home, that would be pointed out to me. There was also, more often than not, the Orthodox also point out the presence of non-Zoroastrian elements while you're performing religious ceremonies. And you need to look at, I mean, back home you've got like consecrated fire temples which you may not have here. So you do not expect everything to work the way it happens from whichever region you come from. Yes, my views are reflecting about the region I come from, but I need to have an open mind and understand your perspective as well. And yes, people are going to question your choices for sure, but like Jimmy said, it was about how the thought process changed over time. I choose to stick by my principle. I choose to be traditional in particular instances. Where needed, I would like to bend, but not break.
Hi everyone, I've been waiting to ask this question throughout this Congress, so this is a great opportunity. Thank you. I've written them down, so I asked this correctly. I was raised by a liberal family back in Surat, India. I was taught the path of righteousness without any limitations on what I could eat or what I could wear. The one rule, not a suggestion, the one rule that I had to follow was to find a Parsi guy and marry within the community. My question to you is this a rule or a construct of Parsis in India specifically, or is this a part of the Zoroastrian religion? Because it seems like it's a bigger deal in India than anywhere else in the world today. If it is indeed part of the religion, in your experience, how did it come about? What was the rationale behind it? I find it hard to believe that not welcoming others into the community is a way of preserving our religion going forward.
Carl, do you want to do it? No.
I think, no.
I've done a lot about this. So we've actually talked about this quite a bit, and as my research personally has shown, when you refer to the more traditional Zoroastrian text, there doesn't seem to be much around it. Now, granted, later texts as well as culturally, as you pointed out, it's not accepted in India. So that's very much, it seems to be a community decision in India. And there was an excellent article written about how when you have a community driving religious decisions, as is done in India, and as was written about in the most recent Fazana journal, these sorts of things happen. But as Mobeds, I personally have performed both the Navjot and the interfaith marriage for one of my very good friends, and I don't think that there's anything inherently against that. And I think the benefit of our religion is very dynamic. So we have to use your own vahumana, good mind, to make a decision for your given environment.
Yet again, the flip side to that. I come from the Parsi stronghold, and I need to represent that side of the story as well. Let's talk about what happened once we moved out from Iran. We immigrated to India. Is that all we know? Do we even know that there were pockets that immigrated to Russia, that moved to Hong Kong? Where are they today? Where are they today? Why did they dwindle? Was it because of interfaith marriages? Do we not want to look back upon our history, learn from our mistakes? Again, I'm not going to force marrying within the community, but let's check the stats. Fizana themselves, while they're not really strong on their stand against interfaith marriages, they themselves in their stats have shown that people marrying outside the fold, the child of the next generation, more often than not, loses his religious Zoroastrian identity. Yes, there are people, I personally know of women who have gone through super hardship, and they are the ones who have religiously stuck to their faith. They are the ones who in spite of having hectic schedules, spare their Sunday mornings, travel like hundreds of miles away to make sure the children of the next generation, their religious education needs are catered to. So yes, I do respect that, but again, try to, if we want to like uphold the religion, if we are looking to like safeguard the future of our religion, of our community, it is a better choice. That is all.
May I ask a follow-up question on that? So whenever we talk about welcoming others, we always talk about interfaith marriages. But we don't talk about people who genuinely have read the scripts, are more Zoroastrians than myself. 10 minutes if you talk to Pablo back there, I can assure you he knows more about Zoroastrianism than I would ever know. Right? So if you're talking about preserving the religion, there are people who want to be part of the religion. Which other culture can boast about it? People genuinely want to be part of us. I myself have learned so many things. Being a Zoroastrian, the only privilege I have is I have 2 Zoroastrian parents. I have not practiced it as well as Pablo back there. So then what do you say about those people who, if we bring them in, it's not about interfaith, that's a separate topic, but if we bring them in, I think we will make this community better and stronger.
I wanted to speak to your first question as well as your next question. I like to identify as an academic. And I went to one of the most liberal colleges on the West Coast, UCSB, party school. And sorry. And I became a little more conservative. I took Religious Studies 130 at 9:30 in the morning with an old Jewish professor, Dr. Richard Hecht, who is, the quintessential old Jewish man. Every lecture started with a discussion on bagels and lox. Anyway, so Mirza Sahib talked about Pew surveys, and what Dr. Hecht made us do in the first few weeks of the quarter was look at Pew surveys on the Jewish belief system. When you study Judaism, there's one concept that's it's quintessential. It's called orthopraxis. It means correct practice. The Jewish belief system is based on about 600 laws of God that you practice to be Jewish. And basically, this Pew surveys came down to what it boiled down to was children with one Jewish parent are less likely to maintain the high holy days, nonetheless the laws of God. Children with one Jewish parent are even less likely to do so. So what I'd like to say, and I apply the same idea to Zoroastrianism, it's just statistics. So what my idea is that being Zoroastrian is not about calling yourself simply Zoroastrian. It's about being and doing Zoroastrian things. So Mirza Sahib also said, be more religious. So the first thing I would say is put your sadra kasti on, pray, maintain the laws of purity as best you can, and educate yourself about those. This is not personal. I mean, this is to the whole audience. And yes, there are some converts that do a very good job at this. But if you just do an open floodgate policy, there are some people who will do this for political reasons and not truly for religious reasons, where there will be good Zoroastrians. And as a faithful Zoroastrian, I feel that is a little hard to swallow. So yeah, it just boils down to statistics. Thank you.
I suppose I have a different perspective coming from Sydney. So we do have a small Zoroastrian population. It is quite hard to find a Zoroastrian spouse. So I think it's like 1 in 8 marriages in Sydney are between 2 Zoroastrians. The remaining are interfaith marriages. So I just guess based on those numbers, it's quite hard to justify only accepting Zoroastrian marriages as a way of upholding the religion. I think, yeah, those numbers speak to themselves. It's just going to essentially die out very quickly if you don't be more accepting of interfaith marriages. So in Sydney, we're very much open to that idea. We do interfaith marriages, we do the knowledges for kids of interfaith marriages as well, which is fantastic. These kids come to our Sunday school sessions, they're engaged. Whether they perpetuate the religion to their kids is another question. But the same goes with kids of Zoroastrian parents. I've done knowledges for kids of Zoroastrian parents who barely know their prayers. They really come to Sunday school, they're already disengaged. So we're seeing that natural decay, not only due to interfaith marriages, but also just naturally. I think if we were to turn our backs to those interfaith marriages, it's going to be see our downfall. One of the things Arda said, which I really liked, was religion talks about being happy and spreading happiness. If someone came to me and said, I'd like you to perform the Zoroastrian rites for my wedding, I, in good consciousness, could not turn them away, because that would be creating unhappiness in the world. So very welcome to accepting interfaith marriages. I think the session we had yesterday was really enlightening for me, because it shows this new kind of evolution of our religion where we are now accepting a trickle of converts. And that's interesting, because that changes the game entirely. I think a lot of us come here with the pressure of trying to find a Zoroastrian partner, and that's so unnecessary. Our parents have been kind of forcing that on us since we were kids. And that's incredibly hard for us to feel like we have this responsibility of a 3,000-year-old religion to find another partner to perpetuate this religion. It's incredibly hard, and it's unjust. I think we need to tone down that rhetoric. I don't think it's healthy. So yeah, I'm supportive of interfaith marriages, and those parents continuing the Zoroastrian religion through their parenting rather than through their blood lineage.
Hey guys, so we have at least 8 other people standing there. So if you could do me a big favor and give very brief answers. If they want detailed answers, they can come to you later and get an explanation, if that's okay with you guys. We have, say that again, 25 minutes, okay. So maybe 2 minutes per answer, no more than that, okay, between the whole panel. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much to all the Mobeds on the panel for the very interesting talk. I had 2 comments to make. One was about the issue of Zoroastrians and fire worship. So I think that there are some definitions of worship for which it would be appropriate to call Zoroastrians fire worshippers. So I looked up the Merriam-Webster definition, and they say to honor or show reverence for as a divine being or supernatural power. And the second meaning is to regard with great or extravagant respect, honor, or devotion. They give an example, a celebrity worshipped by her fans. So it seems that since we do show reverence for the fire, we do think of it as a supernatural being, the son of Ahura Mazda, and represented by its own Amesha Spenta. And we do show it respect, honor, and devotion by serving it the sandalwood. I think it would be correct to call Zoroastrians fire worshippers. And the second comment I wanted to make is that on the topic of whether or not there's actually something within the Zoroastrian faith that requires intra-faith marriage rather than just like a Parsi tradition, I do recall reading a translation of the Patet Pashimanum prayer, and I'm not sure how accurate the translation is, but one of the things they listed there as a sin to be repented for was sexual intercourse with someone outside the faith. So I'm not saying that's necessarily something that should be followed, but if that is the correct translation, then I think that would imply by extension that it might actually be against the faith to marry out.
I'd like to answer the second question.
So regarding the first question about fire worship implies that fire is essentially an inherently good thing. Fire is not inherently a good thing, right? Fire burns down houses, fire causes havoc in a lot of ways. So we respect fire, we revere it, but we're not worshipers of it. It's not it has both good and evil things it can do. But the good it can do if you use it right is phenomenal. So does that answer your first question?
Yeah, I still disagree, but it does answer it, yeah.
Okay, so, and then go for the second question.
No, I'd just like to add to what he said. So in Zoroastrianism, we do not have any sort of imagery about God. And God, Aura Mazda, is associated with divine wisdom. And it's always about the constant battle between good and evil. You choose your Vahu Mana for your own enlightenment. You make the right choices. So if you try to visualize God in a particular form, fire has already been termed Atra Aure Mazda Putra, the son of Aura Mazda. So it is in its own divine being that you are recognizing God. So that is where you are venerating fire. You're not worshipping fire. There's a big difference. So you're like venerating God, venerating fire, and worshipping God through that. If that answers your question. Can I move to the second one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So based on the comment you made, I think this room is full of sinners. Let's not get personal here. Well, okay, sorry, we're running short on time, so let's get to the point here. The scriptures, we all have reference books, okay? We all have different views over here. Look at us priests having different viewpoints here. There are scriptures, there's a religious law book, the Vandida, there's a Patet, okay? I want you to imagine us as medical doctors from various streams. One is going to tell you allopathy is the best. One is going to tell you move to homeopathy, go to Ayurveda, use your Vahu Mana, make your own choice.
In terms of efficiency, we have 20 minutes left, so if all the people who are asking questions can ask very precise, concise questions, that'll help so we can cover more ground. Thank you.
We'd love to interact with you all otherwise outside as well.
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you to all the Dasturjis for coming here today for the fascinating discussion that we've had so far. I would like to ask about, given all the time and the demands that go into being a Mobed, with how we as Vedans and laity could make it easier to balance professional, family demands with those of being a Mobed.
Cool. Great. First of all, great question. And just so Dastur, so basically there's three things, the Ervad, Mobed, and Dastur. So the Ervad is someone who's done their Nava, a Mobed is someone who's practicing. So we're all Mobeds. And Dastur is someone who's like contributing to like the research and development, like kind of like a PhD of the religion. So just one thing to clarify on that. I'll let someone else answer the part about like kind of how you balance your responsibilities versus your religious duties. Someone wants to take that?
Yeah, I think in a way, yes, it is quite challenging because most of my weekends end up being taken up by performing ceremonies and things like that. I sometimes, in a British summer season, I would be performing like 11 weddings in a month. In August, 5 a weekend or something like that. So it is quite challenging, I think, performing the rituals on the side alongside with a full-time job and other part-time jobs and part-time studying and things like that. But that's just the ritual aspect of it, which I think comes from a passion to serve your community, and because I'm in debt of the community for giving me the opportunity to actually move to England, for actually allowing me for giving me funds for higher education, things so on and so forth. So for me, it was that kind of community spirit which said that I have to give back to the community as much. And the second point about if you follow your religion as a way of life, the other aspect of actually practicing the religion is not, I don't see that as a burden to my day-to-day life. I try to incorporate the teachings of Zarathustra into my day-to-day activities. I'm not very successful at that, but that's what it goes hand in hand. So in terms of the priest ritual aspect, I think it just comes out of my own passion, and also the happiness that you spread, the happiness that, because sometimes when I say no, you should, the dejection, the kind of sadness that you're bringing about to people who would be deprived of a ceremony that could have been performed, that kind of motivates me to carry on in spite of me losing a few weekends in the summer or throughout.
Just a quick addition, it's very important if you try to look back even at the Iransha initiative. If we actually look upon stage, there is no single person out here who is a full-time practicing priest. It may seem impressive, a Mobed, yeah, sorry. It may seem really impressive, like, wow, how do you guys juggle it and stuff? But trust me, it can be really stressing, draining at times. One of the, what you as community members can actually try doing is have some sort of machinery, administrative stuff, where these guys out here do not need to look outside to do something else. If you could like have something like, I would personally like to see the community in 2050, if there's such a conversation happening, there should be full-time practicing priests. You do not need to constantly raise funds. You cannot keep going out of the community like, I need to raise funds for this. There should be something already in place, or you cannot expect people to take it up as a profession.
Can we move to the next question, please?
Thank you for a thought-provoking presentation. One of the issues that the community is wrestling with is engaging the community in the examination of the text. As an education professor, what I see you do here is what's called IREs, initiate, response, evaluate. You will pose a question, somebody answers it, then you say yes, good answer, or wrong answer. This is an old-fashioned way of engaging and teaching that really should be used sparingly, but it is the dominant way our Mobeds are operating, and is boring the heck out of the people and is disheartening people from joining and really attending meetings. Have you considered using other methods, other discussion methods, such as Socratic discussions, Socratic models, where people can actually engage in the text and examine it and have an open dialogue as we see modeled in the Gathas?
Honestly, that's a great question. I love it. And personally, I think that in order to get there, I think first of all, we need the community to say that we want that and to make an investment in something like that. Because to have a Socratic discussion in terms of understanding the underlying text, you need to invest in the Mobeds or somebody to know what's going on with the religious literature. But second of all, I personally have tried at least every night here as I'm having a good time, and as many of you know, I've been having a good time, to engage everybody with a discussion over a drink or several drinks, and having, like, understanding why, and bringing that up. And I think that we'll continue to do that, and I hope everybody can come to any one of us to have that discussion openly about questions you might have. So great question. Any other thoughts?
Just a very quick comment. I think we are moving towards that trend. So in London, when we run the religious educational classes, I was volunteering to run the parents' discussion group, and we called it a parents' discussion group for that very reason. Sometimes I would send out material or a few YouTube links and some interesting material out to the parents first, a few weeks in advance, and then we would discuss that topic openly within the forum. And I think that's the best way to learn. However, a very quick comment. Every time I've sent out material to people which is more interesting and not academic, people still haven't actually managed to. So how many of us, yesterday when I gave a talk, I asked people to refer to a very quick YouTube presentation on the Gathas, which was very non-academic. And unfortunately, month after month, turn after turn, I find people not actually, so people say they have an interest, but when it comes to actually doing and taking that, because we can't have a discussion if people don't have a common ground to start the discussion with. So
I'd be happy to help you with that part if you're interested.
That would be brilliant. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being here, first of all. I think it's great that we've got a diverse range of people from all over. So my question is, we've got a really diverse range of views that we've heard today. Obviously, people from various backgrounds, from Bombay, Australia, all over the place. So do you think that we're going down the path of having different denominations? Christianity's got Orthodox, Baptist, so on and so forth, or whatever. And if so, is this a price that we're now having to pay given that we don't have, one singular leader or one code that we need to follow. So say, for example, we've got, a range of people who would be okay with intercaste weddings or navjats or whatever. And then we've also got, on the other side, completely different. So to that extent, are we going down that path? And if so, what are your views on it? Do we need to have one code? Do we need to have one leader? What's your views on it?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. But it is also a very complex question. Somebody could write a dissertation on this. This is a very terse anthropological and sociological idea that you're proposing. Yes, I do feel that there are going to be factions in the future within our community. Like you said, in Christianity, there are multiple denominations. And I personally feel like that's where the community is going over here in Southern California. For example, we have multiple associations which all have their own set of ideas and beliefs. For instance, we have the Zoroastrian Assembly, which are very much pro-conversion. And they do their thing, we do our thing. It's fine. If we going back to your example about Christianity, if we go all out Protestants and Catholics, it's not going to be good for anybody, So if we can peacefully accept what people want to believe and we can respectfully maintain our own beliefs, I think that's the way to go for the future.
Thank you.
Just add to that, I think it's a really nice idea because we're talking about the extinction of our religion versus the extinction of Parsis, and I think if we can cleanly delineate between the religion and our cultural background, we can very easily promote and prosper Zoroastrianism with multiple different streams. Zerkxis, to your point, I think it's great if we can all peacefully practice, but I think there needs to be a conversation had between these different sects so that we are progressing the religion at its greatest kind of potential, and that's potentially where the NAMC can take a leading role, because it seems like the community looks to the Mobeds to kind of come up with a set of guidelines or principles to lead our community forward. Potentially we haven't really been doing that in recent years, so maybe there's an opportunity there for us as Mobeds to step up to that leading role.
Thank you.
I just want to start by saying thank you all for answering very respectfully and thoughtfully to all of our questions. I know it can't be easy to be up there as we throw things at you. So I wanted to say, what can we do to make the community more comfortable and more accepting of some of these converts? Like, what can we do as communities in some of these more liberal areas in North America or Australia? What sorts of classes can we put on? What sorts of things can we do to engage that community so everybody's more comfortable with them being a part of our community?
I think that first point is that the way the question is phrased is involving somebody in the community. That's a community decision. It's not a religious decision. So I would throw that almost back at you. Go tell your friends. Go talk to Pablo or go talk to any of them. They're so nice, intelligent people, and make up your own mind. You have a vahumana. You have the ability to do that, right? So with that. But on the religious side, there's a different element, right? So like there are people who will look at religious text and see some more of the traditional original texts, and they'll take some of the more later texts and kind of say, oh, this is not allowed. Encouraging your community to have those discussions as community members is what makes people welcome. It's not, I don't personally view it as a religious issue. It's a community issue.
Thank you.
Hey, can I just make a quick comment? So you heard Ervad, Soli, Dastur talk about being married to Joanne for 53 years. So look, we are very inclusive. NAMC's position is to be inclusive, period, okay? We welcome everyone, we help them, and in fact, you'll see that some of the American ladies, they have a lot more knowledge than some of the Zoroastrian kids here. So we should welcome anyone who can help us, and we can get educated from anyone and everyone. So we should have an open mind.
Just a very quick comment, because the last two questions touched upon unity, and I think it's a very bad idea if we carry on splitting ourselves. I think we have enough organizations already and enough points of view. Personally, the way I see the solution is that, I mean, back in the UK, I volunteer for both the organizations who split up due to some small differences. Today, the differences are small based on their viewpoints, and I find it stupid that people who have common goals in the so at the end of the day, what you believe in terms of intercaste marriages, conversions, blah, 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 that doesn't affect you being a Zoroastrian and living a Zoroastrian way of life. You helping, thank you. You helping your children for higher education, people battling terminal illnesses, all these common goals that these organizations have. In the UK now we do them separately, which is very stupid because we don't have enough volunteers to do these things and have a sustainable thing. So my view is that regardless of everyone's views and opinions, the Gathas do say, choose your own creed, but then come together on all the other things. So immediately remove that barrier between the Orthodox and the liberal, remove that barrier quickly based on your practices, and go back to what your common goals are and unite and work towards achieving those common goals more efficiently.
We got only 5 minutes. So can you ask your questions briefly? Don't give a statement, just ask your question.
A lot of these Zoroastrian people do not accept interfaith marriages. Why did they glorify upon the success of Freddie Mercury when he was openly gay as well?
Why do we glorify Freddie Mercury when we don't? Yeah.
Sure. So the question is, if I'm going to rephrase it back, why are some Zoroastrians against interfaith marriages but then celebrating Freddie Mercury?
Yes.
So I would almost say that Zoroastrians, a lot of us are very fine with both interfaith and whatever gender wants to marry. A lot of us as Mobeds are very fine with that, but the community isn't. So as a community member, you need to stand up and say, hey, I think it's fine if they're not doing any harm to me, it's making them happy. Why does that have anything to do with it? It's not a religious thing that is against homosexuality, or against interfaith. It's a community issue.
Hello. How would you all, I'm just going to keep it brief, how would you all recommend to us, as not only religious leaders but community leaders as well, how would you recommend for the youth's voice to be heard in these community discussions, in providing these rules and restrictions on social issues, particularly around the issue of oftentimes poor treatment of female mubadyars?
Somebody else want to ask a question? Especially on the issue of female mobilities.
If you're talking about youth involvement, I'd say try to start going out of your way and be there for your local community association in general, and not just make it like, oh, I'm going to go to the Congress after the next 4 years. It's very important that each of us take it up as our duty, as our responsibility to help our local association in whatever capacity possible. It's like people come and tell me, oh, we're lacking religious knowledge, we're doing this, and it just culminates in having discussions. But what? If you want to have concrete action, start being there yourself. Be the change you want to see.
I suppose just to add to that, I feel like a lot of the time we talk about religious principles and contributing to your community, which is great. But showing up, I feel, is not enough. It's all about practicing what we're preaching as well. So one of the slides talked about charity in action, and I think that's something that really we're very fond of, we're very proud of. But when I look at the Sydney community, we don't do that at all. We're very inward focused. We just talk about Zoroastrians and marrying in and all this kind of stuff and all that bitty kind of stuff. But when you have a greater purpose, when you're actually practicing the religion, that's what will probably you'll gain greater value from your religion in that. So I think it is a point of definitely showing up, but then putting your religion into action, because we're not here just to talk about being Zoroastrian. We actually want to practice those values.
Hey. But why should I practice religion?
What do you mean?
Like why? What's my reason?
Well, it's up to you. You have your own vahumana. You don't have to do it.
Okay.
Well, and if you don't want to, then you don't have to do it.
I'm fair on this subject matter, but man, it's like what's my real? I have like get some good incentives here, good values from it, but I'm like, what's the real? It's what's really drawing me into it. Like I've been grown up in the culture, but I'm like.
So I think
I know what you mean. I know what you're saying though.
Yeah. So you don't have to.
Yeah, okay,
if you don't want to, you don't have to be here. That's absolutely fine. But I guess the thing is that if you believe that doing the right thing is the right thing, then it's a good religion to go with. And I'll let someone else answer also.
Yeah,
I gave a talk in New Zealand when I answered that question, why religion? Because I always have a view of religion as a way of life, religion as a way of life. So from that perspective, from both perspectives, from a pragmatic and practical perspective, it's good to have a moral ethical framework. I personally believe that even atheists have a moral and ethical framework, and based on the definition of religion on Wikipedia, that moral ethical framework is their religion. Religion doesn't have to have a creator, a god, someone sitting on a cloud with a beard and things like that.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, I think, if you educate, once we understand the significance and practices of the meanings of everything why we do what we do, especially from my talk yesterday as well on other talks that people have given on making religion as a way of life, I think it would be almost, that would probably answer your question in terms of what makes you want to be following a good ethical moral way of life. I think there is no reason not to follow a good moral ethical way of life, and I would call that religion over just following a set of customs, practices and traditions.
Can I give you my one short answer? I'm not sure if you heard our three presentations.
I've heard the answer like through multiple different ways.
If you practice the values and the attributes of being a good Zoroastrian that we talked about, your life will change for the better. And you can find that from the Avesta, you can find that from some other holy book, but it's up to you. So you don't have to be religious, as Adil said. That teaches you to be a good human being and to be happy. That's the most important thing. You may find other ways of being happy.
Hello, guys. So to keep it brief, when I hear about this interfaith marriages and how people criticize it, it almost sounds like what I'm seeing going on in this country with political correctness on both the left with the social justice SJW movement and the right when people get threatened by diversity. I feel like with interracial marriage, it's kind of the same thing because they don't want to accept anyone that's new to the religion. And actually people who actually go into religion, convert or have interfaith marriages, they actually do know more about the religion than some people who are Zoroastrians. Good example would be my aunt and Soli uncle's wife, Aunt Joanne, is a great example of this. So how do you deal with this issue with identity politics in Zoroastrianism?
Can I just say one word? Differentiate between religion and culture. And I think that would be one short answer in terms of use culture to celebrate religion, not to destroy religion in that sense. And I think make that differentiation.
Don't mean to brush off the question, but it is a community issue rather than a religious issue. So I think it would be better if we talk much more about interfaith marriages something else other than interfaith. So because these guys also need to answer the questions. We'd love to continue the conversation outside as well. We're running short on time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just really quickly, a lot of the narrative over here is our population is declining, both our culture and both our religion in the last 100, 200 years. So very simply, what do you see the future in the next 100 years, and why are you guys optimistic?
30 seconds.
Towards the end of my presentation, I said that if a philosophy has helped mankind for 3,500 years through the various dynasties of Zoroastrianism, so the same group of Zoroastrianism was practiced by so many different groups, I don't see that a philosophy like that can just end up in a British museum. So I see that if for the next 100 years, if we eventually educate ourselves on the true significance and practical meaning of Zoroastrianism, then regardless of our caste, creed, and what we were born as, Zoroastrianism will flourish. And I think there is already a revival of Zoroastrianism in all the communist countries, so on and so forth. So I don't see Zoroastrianism as a philosophy and the religion of Zarathustra ever not helping mankind or any person in life. And hopefully that will stay regardless of any of the small ethnic minorities that may or may not carry on in the future.
Last question.
No. Okay.
Go for last question.
Would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for attending. One last question, okay? All right. Arzan is the boss.
Hi, so
thank you.
This goes on from what you said earlier about a lot of the priests being part-time. I wanted to know what your opinion was on why someone who's a son or a grandson of a priest is allowed to follow the path to priesthood, but someone who is not from the family bloodline, and I mean a man or a woman, isn't given the same opportunity if they feel like they want to do something for their community.
So if I could answer this question. So we've given a lot of thought to your question. This isn't the first time it's coming up. So at the last North American Mobed Council's AGM in New Jersey, we have passed a resolution that in North America, because we can't control what happens in India, any man who comes from either the Madon family or Thornan family can become a priest. So we have already changed some of the rules. Now as we go on, as you can imagine, and Adil has said this many times, the North American Mobed Council's resolutions are meaningless because we don't have a lot of power. The power all rests in the hands of the board of directors of associations. So we have taken the first step to include that and be inclusive. So over time, as you can imagine, societies don't change overnight. So we have made the first change, and hopefully in the future, more changes are coming. Any man today. In the Mobed, to become a Mobed, no. Today, we don't have that.
And I'd just like to add, because we did have an informal conversation about this yesterday on the cruise. So again, I'd say we need to look back to history as well before we just jump into change. We've survived for like so many years, and there used to be these sections, these classes, out of which the priestly class has maintained its ethnicity, you could say. So before we just jump into change, we need to streamline it with proper planned discussions. We cannot just, whoa, let's just become Mobeds. It's going to be a disaster, trust me. We need to take a slow, informed decision.
Okay, great. I really thank you all again for participating, and most importantly, we would like to give a standing ovation to our young Mobeds who took the time to come here. And thank you again. And Homi Gandhi, the president of Faizana, would like to say a few words. Homi, please come up. Yes. Homi, it's okay. Oh, okay. Homi, he says only 20 seconds.
Okay. 1, 2. Thank you. Please sit down. I just want to make a statement because name of Faizana was mentioned many times, and or at least sometimes. And I'd like to make a statement because Faizana is a federation of 26 member associations. Faizana does not make any rules or regulation of who is a member and who cannot be a member, or whether the conversion can take place or do not take place. Each member association has its constitution and bylaws, and they make decisions about it. Having said that, the differences between the Zoroastrians and Parsis and conversions and not accepting women and their progenies into the faith, this is based on the decisions of high courts in India. In my opinion, it does not apply to anywhere else outside India. We, Zoroastrians, outside India have moved out from India, Pakistan, Iran, and we create our own identity. We have to do that. And I can see from the questions being asked, the comments being made, that there is a need to create our own identity. And we shall create our own identity. So please continue to use your Vaumono in creating that identity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all the amazing Mobeds on stage, everybody for engaging in the conversation. Can we give another round of applause, please? Yes. And I encourage everybody to continue having these conversations because it clearly is important for our community. Now I'd like to offer a token of appreciation to each of these wonderful Mobeds for all the work that they do for our community.
And while they're all being felicitated,
if you can if you can come to the front.
Yeah, please come in the front. But while they're all being felicitated, we will skip the break for efficiency and continue with the next one so the sessions can have a little bit more time, right? The next session over here will start immediately, as will the one in Cherry Hill.
Thank you.